Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Berkeley. I'm Reverend Marcus Leifert. I'm so glad to be with you. And someday we will figure out how to warm this room up. But for now, I invite you, warm your hands now and as often as you like. We hope that if you're visiting with us for the first time or just checking us out, getting to know this place, I especially want to welcome you. We hope that no matter who you are, no matter how you make your living or how you experience the sacred, no matter whom you love, you will feel welcome here in the fullness of your being. If there's something on your heart this morning that you'd like held in the loving embrace of this community, there's a memory book on the back table. You're always welcome to write about a joy or a sorrow, something you're grieving or celebrating, and it'll be read aloud, or just to light a candle for a silent memory or prayer. If you are getting to know us and you'd like to know more, if you're interested in finding out more about our tradition and what it means to become a member of this community, stick around after the service today. Reverend Jay Atkinson, retired minister, member of our community, and I, and our welcoming team, and Charisse, our connections coordinator, will all be gathered in the fireside room with those interested in learning more about our congregation and Unitarian Universalism. So grab some food in the social hall and come find us in the fireside room if you're interested. We're in our service series, worship series about masks, the masks we wear and how we take them off and when in this season, and today we're going to be thinking about the masks that are inward facing, all of those different masks that make up ourselves. And just since it was so much fun a couple weeks ago to do this, will you do this with me again? And it's a little weird, those of you who haven't yet, but so rise in body or spirit, and then warm those hands up, and then give your face a little massage, warm your face up a little. And then just kind of squish your face around, and then as once you got it a little squished, then just kind of settle in now to wherever it is. Settle into that face, and let that mask just sort of take over your face for a moment, and turn around and say good morning to somebody around you before we sing our first hymn. Good morning, Brad. Morning. Good morning. Great. Wonderful. Let us sing.
Morning hangs a signal upon the mountain crest, while all the sleeping valleys in silent darkness rest. From me to be
morning. I'm Virginia Frederick, also known as Ginger. I'm your worship associate today, and as we light our chalice to begin our service, we remind ourselves that our land occupies land in Huchiun, the unceded territory of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone people. May we have the humility and courage to do our part to restore what has been broken and the wisdom to live into a new solidarity with indigenous communities with the earth. Let us light our chalice flame with these words by Michael Leung. God bless our contradictions. Those parts of us which seem out of character, let us be boldly and gladly out of character. Let us be creatures of paradox and variety, creatures of constraint, of contrast, that's better, of light and shade, creatures of faith. Let us step out of character into the unknown to struggle and love and do what we will. Now, would you like to join me in saying our covenant? Love guides this church. The quest for truth and justice is its common purpose, to give thanks, listen deeply, speak with care, honor our differences, and seek and grant forgiveness. These things we covenant with one another. And now let's do a song.
Tea, the memory of all that. No, they can't take that away from me. The way you smile just beams. The way you sing off key. The way you haunt my dreams. No, they can't take that away from me. We may never bumpy road to love. Still I'll always keep the memory of the way you hold your knife, the way we dance till 3, the way you changed my life. No, they can't take that away from me. No, they can't take that.
So if you'd like to join me in body or spirit up front, we're going to have a little conversation about what it means to wear a mask every day with your clothing. Who loves to shop? Yeah, I love to shop. I'm wearing all black today so I can be a nice, even canvas for what we're about to do. I'm about to give you a picture of my wardrobe. I have many, many scarves. And I feel like every scarf represents a different aspect of my personality. When I put it on, I'm saying, what do I want to show you today? So, let's see what we have in this magic bag. And if you want to, over there, kids, you're welcome to come and choose a scarf if you like. And let's see what we have. You can just choose whichever one you want. All right, Stella has very good taste. She's chosen my very favorite scarf. It is my scarf. Can I see you, Stella? This is my scarf of many, 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 many colors. And it all represents different facets of who I am. And because I believe in things like energy and astrology and all those fun Bay Area things, of course, every color means something different. And so I've got some brown in here, some red in here, some blue and teal and different things that represent different aspects of me. Some flowers. See the flowers? Yeah. And this is my favorite one. I actually wore this one today to show you many things about me. But we've begun here at the everything place. What else can we find? Does anyone else want to pick a scarf? Hi, Chloe. Hi, Chloe. I have so many scarves. She is correct. They are correct. That one? Okay. So this pink scarf, this represents a very spiritual side of me. So this pink scarf I actually wore when I was being initiated into the temple of Aphrodite, because one of the things that I do is that I am a pagan high priestess. That's a big part of my life. This pink scarf represents that part of me. I was initiated in this scarf, and pink is said to be one of the colors of Aphrodite. Before Aphrodite was thought of, Isis was thought of, who is from Egypt. I am also a member of the Fellowship of Isis. So I have earrings on that have Egyptian hieroglyphs on them, and an ankh, which is actually thought to be a symbol of Isis. That's a really big part of who I am. And I see that Chloe has found another one. This is my blue scarf. It reminds me of air, and air to me means wisdom and new things and new beginnings. So this is me that was a preschool teacher at one time. This is me that was a college professor at one time. This is all the new things that I do and that I teach and that I experience and that I pass on. And I think Stella has chosen my mermaid scarf. This is my mermaid scarf. And it's my mermaid scarf because it reminds me of the different waves of the ocean. And what it represents is a part of me that feels like it's often swimming upstream. This scarf is my code switching scarf. If people have heard the term code switching, then maybe you understand that code switching means that you choose your language or how you move in the world based on the audience that you're presenting to. And I would go further to say that almost every black person in this country has a code switching scarf. This is part of me. Thank you. I just bought this one last week. Still very excited about it. This is, I don't know, some people would say it's teal, some people would say it's green. For me, I think it's both. And it represents me as a mother. I have my children, I've had 2 from my body. I got married and I adopted more children, so now I have 1 million children. I have all of your children, so many children. So this is me as a mother and a very, very valued part of my heart and who I am. What do we got left? Why is there money in there? Because I'm about to have a really good day. Thank you. And this is my healer scarf. It's brown, like the earth. It's grounded. This is me as a chaplain. This is me as someone who does a bit of pastoral counseling. This is me as a confidant. This is me as a good friend. And almost all of these colors are in this scarf. All of these things and so much more make up who I am and what I show you in the world. And there's no way that I could possibly explain all of me. Nobody could explain all of themselves to anyone. But I show you all of these things. I hand them to you with love. And I hope that as you're here, you're feeling called to be able to do the same and share your whole selves with us. Thank you so much for being here. And bring our kids out to Celebration Chapel.
Well, heaven isn't the only one pulling scarves out of a bag. I've got masks under a podium. And we all were singing about the way you wear your hat. So hats are another way to change our identity. So I have a couple of masks from various places hanging on my wall. They're reminders to me of places I've been or people I know who've brought them back as souvenirs, or elements of myself. And one of the oldest ones is comedy and tragedy. Now, I'm sure you've all seen these. And these are, they're classic Greek comedy and tragedy masks. And in the Greek theater, they used to wear masks all the time. In fact, these remind me of my undergrad days when I was a theater major. And it just is amazing to me that they could project and show emotions wearing these. But when I was actually in Greece, there was this place called Epidaurus, and the acoustics were just so amazing. You could speak in a normal tone of voice and be heard way in the back row. So they were wearing masks, but they were still portraying these emotions. And so they were able to let those emotions really come out, even though they weren't feeling necessarily all of them all the time. They were quite more stylized. Another souvenir I have on my wall is this one, which is from Venice. And they wear these in Venice at the Carnival time. And that's just part of their culture, their history, with the Serenissima, am I saying that right? Republic. It was a symbol of freedom and transgression because, of course, no one can tell who you are when you're wearing a mask, right? Just like Batman, it's completely anonymous wearing this mask. And my son always thought that was ridiculous. And but in any case, they sort of are symbols of freedom, for those Venetians, and freedom from social categories. Now, this particular one has a long nose, not as long as some, but the long noses were had nothing to do with frivolity and freedom. They had everything to do with the plague. And they were plague masks, if you ever seen the ones with the really long nose. And they believed that wearing those masks would keep them safe. Well, we know something about that, right? Because this is our modern-day plague mask right here. So we sort of lived through all that, and we're moving on from that plague. Now, finally, I have another souvenir here representing a Mayan mask from the Yucatan. Now, they sometimes say these are death masks or worn in battle, but it's my understanding that these masks were somehow believed to convey to the wearer the power of the gods, or some particular gods, because they had these images on there. I couldn't tell you exactly what this one represented. I just thought it was pretty. But it just connects to other greater, higher self or a higher being. So the masks on my wall connect me not only to memories of travel, but to various parts of myself, emotions, freedom, mystique, protection, and connection to a higher being or a higher self. And sometimes talking and healing, put that guy down, very different parts of ourselves kind of come together, like in this poem by Nancy Schaefer, who's actually healing herself. And have you ever talked to yourself to try to get yourself to feel better? Well, that's what she's doing here. It's called mending. How shall we mend you, sweet soul? What shall we use? And how is it in the first place that you've come to be torn? Come, sit by me. Tell me, we'll find a way to mend you. I could offer you so much, sweet soul. This banana, sliced in rounds of palest yellow atop hot cereal, or these raisins scattered through it if you'd rather. I could offer you cellos in the background singing melodies Vivaldi heard and wrote for us to keep. Would hold out to you everything colored blue or lavender or light green. All of this I would offer you, sweet soul. All of it, and any piece of it might mend you. I would offer you, sweet soul, this chair by the window, the sunlight on the floor, and the cat asleep in it. I would offer you my silence, my presence, all this love I have, and my sorrow that you've become torn. How shall we mend you, sweet soul? With these things, I think. Gently we can begin. We can mend you with a rocking chair, some raisins, a cat, a field of lavender beginning now to bloom. We can mend you with songs remembered entirely the first time we ever heard them. We can mend you with pieces of your own sweet self, sweet soul, with what you've taught from the very beginning. Thank you.
Let's rise once more in body or spirit, and we'll sing together the first three verses of Name Unnamed.
Unnamed, hidden and shown, knowing and known, Gloria, beautiful, moving, ceaselessly for me, growing, emerging with awesome delight, maker of rainbows, glowing with color, marching in wonder, energy flowing in darkness and light, named unnamed, hidden and shown, knowing and known, Gloria, sinner of chaos, pulling and twisting, freeing the fibers of pattern and form, weaver of stories, famed or unspoken, tangled or broken, shaping a tapestry vivid and warm, named unnamed, hidden and shown, knowing and known, Gloria.
I invite you to take a moment to rest more deeply into this moment, to feel your connection down to the earth, the holy earth always there, always supporting, to feel your breath moving in and out. Words this morning from Reverend Sharon Parker Dennison, words followed by a shared silence. To invoke love is to ask for a hug from a thunderstorm. Spill tea in the lap of the infinite trickster. To make the biggest, most embarrassing mistake of your life in front of everyone who matters. To invoke love is to never know if it will come softly with the nuzzle of a beloved dog or pounce right on your chest with the strength of a lioness, protecting her cub, her pride, her homeland. To invoke love is to take the risk of inviting chaos to visit the spaces you spent so much time making tidy. To watch as the breath of life scatters everything you have only just folded and put away. To invoke love is to allow for the possibility that your words and actions might become so empowered you can no longer believe in apathy or the self-righteous idea that nothing can change. To invoke love is to give up self-deprecation, false humility, pride, to consider yourself worthy to be made whole, willing to encounter love that will never let us let each other go. To invoke love is to guard against assumptions, take care with our words, and practice forgiveness, not as ethereal ideal, but right here in the messy midst of our imperfect lives. To invoke love is to approach each day and every person with wonder, anticipating love's arrival. Is this the moment? Is this love's grand entrance? Is this person the embodiment of love? Am I the one? To invoke love is to play the fool, the one more concerned with loving than with appearance or reputation, the one ready and willing to be vulnerable, abandoning anything that gets in love's way. To invoke love is to be ready to become love. Here, now, in everything we do. Are we ready? Let us rest in this stillness, in this quiet, in this love. In this community of care and witness, we hold one another through the seasons of our lives. We light candles and share words each week to know that we are held. We lift up today a prayer for Alan Hosen, who remains seriously ill at Kaiser Hospital. A prayer for Pia, who has stage 4 lung cancer. And a prayer for Kristen as she struggles to save her business from high rents. Many are thinking a prayer for the peaceful rest of our beloved friend Chris Ohm. We will all miss her intensely, who died this week. Anne Greenwood lifts up, as many of us who were on a call yesterday, with a prayer for the president of our Transylvanian partner church, who is hospitalized, Giza David. And Catherine Hanway writes, my last remaining uncle, Dwayne Herrick, passed on Friday morning. He's out of his chronic pain. I will miss how he could never say, I love you, but signed off his calls with adios, his version of I love you. We're with Kristen Jensen as she's mourning the passing of her father and treasuring their good memories. And we lift up a prayer for Zach Felty, a person of brilliant heart, mind, and spirit who is struggling with acute health challenges. May his breath be free and easy, his sleep be deep and restful, and his mind rest in the love that cannot and will not let him go. May these names we have spoken aloud, and all that yet remains unnamed, hidden in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts, may we know all that we hold here is held in the loving embrace of this gathered community, and by that nameless love that knows no bounds, that love that cannot and will not let us go. May it be so. And amen.
I'm the underbelly, I am the claw, never one thing, no, not one thing at all. I'm a street fighter, I'm a prayer for peace, I'm a holy roller, I'm a honeybee. I am the truth, I am the lie, I am the ground, I am the sky. I am the silence, I am the call, never one thing, no, not one thing at all. I'm the underbelly, I am the claw, never one thing, no, not one thing at all. I'm a street fighter, I'm a prayer for peace, I'm a holy roller, I'm a honeybee.
I am hope, I am defeat, I am broken, I am complete, I am the grace, I am the fall, never one thing, no, not one thing at all.
I'm the underbelly, I am the claw, never one thing, no, not one thing at all. I'm a street fighter, I'm a prayer for peace, I'm a holy roller, I'm a honeybee. Ooh,
the underbelly. I am the claw, never one thing, no, not one thing at all. I'm a street fighter, I'm a prayer for peace, I'm a holy roller, I'm a honey bee. I am a victor, I am the loss, I am a prophet, I am the cost. I am the salve, I am the sting, never know, never know, never one thing. One thing at all, never one thing, no, not one thing at all. Never one thing, no, not one thing at all.
Do you ever hear voices? This isn't a psychiatrist's office, don't worry. It's a dangerous question, I know, but if we just take a step back from the stigma for a moment, you hear voices, don't you? I mean, there's lots of different voices in there. Some people talk about the committee in their head. Do you have names for any of your voices? Yeah, a few of them. Anybody got a cranky know-it-all in there? Or you ever wonder what happened to dear little lost and confused? Or they're just more simple, the critic, the performer, the one who wants to hide, the hopeless one, the champion. The question, I think, is really, and I think this is the most basic of questions, how do we love all the parts? How do we love them all like a hug from a thunderstorm? I've been wrestling with a book called Hospicing Modernity. It's by a woman named Vanessa Machado de Oliveira. Its subtitle is Facing Humanity's Wrongs and the Implications for Social Activism. She's a professor at the University of British Columbia up in Vancouver, and she's originally from Brazil, where she comes from two lineages, from a German grandmother and from a Guarani indigenous grandmother. And the book is a bringing together of these streams of ways of knowing to attempt to relate to this, what I've heard called a polycrisis we're in, this polycrisis of modernity. And one of the ideas is that we're struggling with modernity's understanding of the self. In modernity, we've come to understand, and she has this whole thing about where do we even start with where did modernity come from, and we don't want to worry about that for today. But we have this idea that the self is an individual organism that can be understood separate from its context, and that is unitary in nature. That the mature self is this developed reason on top of all the rest, the body and the emotions and everything else, that acts with unity, with oneness, and that can then therefore show up with clarity and transparency from moment to moment in any given context or way, that this solid self will keep showing up. It's not true. I don't know if you've noticed about yourself, but I've noticed about mine, like Whitman said, I contain multitudes. I think that the journey is a little bit like the way we've journeyed from the understanding of what is of most essential nature in matter, right? So the original idea of the atom, the name itself comes from the idea that that was going to be the most fundamental kind of matter, right? That was John Dalton's idea of the atom, when we come down to it. And then, of course, we realize, no, if you take apart that atom, you've got different parts with protons and neutrons and electrons. But then, that was what it was when I grew up. That was what they were telling me in school. Those are the fundamental parts. But now you know some of these names of more fundamental than that, parts of parts of parts, quarks and quasons. That's not one. I don't know what they are. You know some of them. Wynn knows some of them. Quantum particles, right? I think our journey around what is the self might mirror that in some way. The self is made up of these parts, these many, many parts. And the metaphor that De Oliveira likes to use is the people on the bus. She says at its most basic level, you've got a bus inside you. And at its most basic level, this bus is a driver and many passengers who embody what has marked one's lifetime, including childhood events and unprocessed traumas, significant others. A list goes on. Some of these passengers are at the front of the bus, and their voices are loud and well known. Some are seated in the middle of the bus and can only be heard on certain occasions by the people in the front. Sometimes there's conflict amongst the passengers. Some are at the back and maybe completely even unknown to the driver or drivers of the bus. Sometimes there are rebellions on the bus and it can be hijacked by a rogue passenger. Ever have a hijacking on your bus? Sometimes passengers temporarily replace the driver. Sometimes the bus goes too fast and passengers become nauseated from the movement requiring attention. She says the basic premise of this methodology is that if we cannot hold space for the complexities within us, there's no chance for us to hold space for the complexities around us. Getting to know our passengers, getting a relationship going amongst these entities on your bus, it is, I think, the process of spiritual maturation, of becoming able to relate to and see complexity. Do I contradict myself? Very well, then I contradict myself. I contain multitudes. I don't think we're going to be able to face, for example, climate change without access to childlike parts that have awe and wonder, innate intuition about the role of the natural world in our spiritual lives. Or without managerial parts that can make an action plan and know about timelines and task lists. Or about ache in the chest parts, who all they can do in the face of the state of the world is grieve. We've got to make room for them all, get to know all of these people on the bus. Oliveira says the bus methodology, it can help us work with our unconscious in playful ways to make connections and associations that can bypass our ego-logical defenses, these defenses modernity has cultivated in us. For example, if something prompts defensiveness or resistance, you can pause to check your bus. And instead of embodying the resistance, you can take a step back, see this resistance expressed by a passenger, or maybe a few, on your bus. Pay attention to what that passenger is teaching through what they are saying, or through their interactions or conflicts with other passengers. She offers, if the idea of the bus is unrelatable, you could try a different image like an orchestra or a theater, a village, a campfire, an ant farm, squirrels on a spaceship, whatever works for you. But go in there for a second, if you will. Go check in on your bus or your squirrels on a spaceship. And just notice right now, in this moment, in this room, who's on your bus? What are they saying? How are they feeling? I bet you've got some passengers who are mostly attuned to the temperature of the room. Some passengers who are curious or interested or resistant or have already heard this before, or who are anxious to hear what's next, or who are thinking about what you're going to make for dinner tonight. This bus, this whole cacophony of people, these voices within us. There's it's not the source that Oliveira is drawing on, but there's a popularized contemporary form of therapy these days called IFS, internal family systems. Somebody took the idea of our family systems that were made up of these relationships, which that's what we'll talk about next week, and looked inside if we could understand these parts relating to each other the way that people in a family system relate to one another. What insights might we gain about how to relate to these parts for our own healing, for our own well-being? In his model, David Schwartz is who mapped this out for IFS. He talks about young parts having exile parts that didn't feel like they could belong, and then protector parts that stepped in. And those exile parts, they might be at the back of your bus. It's hard to hear from, hard to give them space. And these protectors, he talks about firefighters and managers coming on to make things okay. All of these faculties are wonderful, but when we don't make room for those quieter parts, when we're not aware of the ones who don't easily and obviously grab the wheel of the bus, we lose touch with what I think is a critical faculty, the faculty of vulnerability. David White says, vulnerability is a faculty that lets you know what's about to happen. It's about being in touch with the world on your own tender edge of unfolding. So I've got them. I've got these parts, and they unless I'm careful, unless I'm really tuning in, they'll just spin in their cycles, right? So my critic will come on, start telling me what a terrible job I'm doing. Here you are up here again. Do you even know why you're doing this? Does this matter at all? And that'll sink me right into a shame part that'll just start curling up, and I want to hide and get out of here. Which, of course, it does not feel good, and so I can't stay there, and so I get a nice performing manager to step on in, take the reins. Right, this cycle, these ways that they relate to each other without any conscious thought. It's all part of our nervous system's dance of regulation, right? So we've got our parasympathetic and our sympathetic nervous systems. The parasympathetic nervous system that wants to allow us to rest and digest. It puts us at ease and makes us available for connection. The sympathetic nervous system that's ready to respond to a dangerous situation, that gets that cortisol going. Each part has its role to play up-regulating or down-regulating. And we develop these cycles in order to keep ourselves in balance. But what all of these parts most long for, I believe, is to be loved, to be in touch with that wisest self who knows there are no bad parts. Because I don't know about you, but my parts can really point fingers at each other. That conflict on the bus can get pretty nasty in my own head. When I'm able to take a deep breath and allow my wisest self to hear whatever part is speaking, it knows there is wisdom, there is beauty, there is goodness in every part. This is our universalism. This is our theology that there is no hell. There are no bad people. There are no bad parts. See that movie Inside Out? Then there's all the emotions inside. We're watching the emotions inside her head. Pixar movie. If you missed it, go. You got to see Inside Out. But the parts inside her head. Joy is trying to run the show, and at the beginning of the movie, we have this moment when Joy draws a circle for sadness to stay in. She says, "Sadness, you just stay right there. Don't mess with the rest of this." And then, of course, the climactic moment of the movie is when joy and sadness team up, when we see Riley, the little girl, understanding that all of these emotions have value. They all are needed. And it's through feeling the sadness that she realizes she doesn't want to run away from home, and she comes back, and through expressing it, that her parents are able to see her and share their own vulnerability. These access to parts is what leads to the connection that we long for. I was walking down the street, this is a few years ago, and I was deep in that critic story. I mean, I was really going there about how meaningless and you know, I would talk about, I'm just a charlatan up there doing this. And I got to the rant was going on and on. I was walking down the sidewalk. I was, my head was down, and I got to the thought, all you do is tell stories and talk about ideas. That was enough to wake me up. I started cracking myself up right there on the sidewalk. I mean, just the mood shift was amazing. How quickly, when I was able to hear that sentence as funny as you just heard it. And I started walking more lightly. All I do is tell stories and talk about ideas. I figured out a way to make a living telling stories and talking about ideas. Wow! It's this moment that I thought of when I was listening to Elizabeth Gilbert. She was being interviewed on a podcast, who wrote her famous book is Eat, Pray, Love. She was on Glennon Doyle's podcast, We Can Do Hard Things, recently, and she talked about her branch of Hinduism that she studied in India. And it's called the Splendor of Recognition. This is the name of this lineage, which is just, first of all, such a beautiful name. She said that the ancient idea comes out of, the Himalayas, that God's omniscient, that's the starting point, but that's boring. As soon as you realize that God's omniscient, that must be so boring. And so what do you do when you can create anything, and once you know everything, she says, well, God's like, I'm going to play this incredible game of hide and seek with me. Because there's nothing that I'm not, so there's nowhere that I'm not, but I'm going to see if I can hide myself so thoroughly from myself that I forget that I am myself. And what better way to do it? Where better to do it than in the mind of a human being? she said, which is the most chaotic arcade game of consciousness. And then I'm going to see whether the me that's in there can find me, because it's so unlikely that I ever will. But if we do, the miraculousness of it is so extraordinary. It's like a game of peekaboo with a baby. It's like, oh my God, I forgot that I'm divine again. And then that splendor of recognition, I find myself and I forget, I find myself and I forget. It's like, oh my God, you were there the whole time. The whole time. She says, oh my God, that was such a good game. Oh, now I'm going to forget again. These lines from, well, in our hymnal we say they're from Hafiz, the Persian Sufi poet, but it's actually Goethe, kind of inspired by him. Cloak yourself in 1,000 ways, and still I shall know you, my beloved. Veil yourself with every enchantment, and yet I shall feel your presence most dear, close, and intimate. I shall salute you in the springing of cypresses and in the sheen of lakes, the laughter of fountains. I shall surely see you in tumbling clouds, in brightly embroidered meadows. O beloved presence, more beautiful than all the stars together, I trace your face in ivy that climbs in clusters in grapes, in morning flaming the mountains in the clear arch of sky. You gladden the whole earth and make every heart great. You are the breathing of the world. May you know yourself to be the breathing of the world. May you cloak yourself, mask yourself, even to yourself in 1,000 ways, so you might delight again and again in finding yourself once more. May it be so, and amen.
I invite you now into the spiritual practice of generosity. Instead of passing the plate, you can give electronically by scanning the QR code on the back of your badge, or you can put a check or cash donation into the donation envelope that you'll find in the back of the pew in front of you. Write your name on it, mark offering plate or pledge, and put it in the donation box beside the fountain out in the atrium as you leave. And each week, half the offering plate is served with a nonprofit Good Neighbor organization recommended by our wonderful Social Justice Committee. The Good Neighbor for this month is the Berkeley Food Pantry. The Berkeley Food Pantry's mission is to provide good, nutritious groceries, household items, and opportunities for learning and self-empowerment for Berkeley and Albany households in crisis, especially for those households at risk of upheaval and displacement. Thank you. Now, please join me in dedicating our offering. We dedicate our offering and ourselves to the mission of this congregation to create loving community, inspire spiritual growth, and encourage lives of integrity, joy, and service.
Good morning. I'm Charis Tomador, your Connections Coordinator. If you're new to our church and you'd like to learn more about how to get connected, I welcome you to find me or any of the greeters at the welcome table in the atrium after the service. And today we're hosting a membership information session in the fireside room. If you'd like to attend, please pick up your lunch before you go to the fireside room and then join us. To find out what's happening in the life of our community, you can always check the news link on the homepage of our website, where you'll find our weekly email newsletter, The Week Ahead, which includes a list of activities, announcements, and contact information. This week, I want to especially lift up the following. This year's candidates for the Board of Trustees will host a forum to answer all your questions on next Sunday, January 28th, after the service. The enrollment period for the Springtime Chalice Circles is happening right now. You can find more information in the atrium. The Freestone Committee is hosting dinner and film night on Friday, February 2nd. You can buy tickets at their table in the atrium. And now, Lynn Cahoon will speak to us about RE. Thank you.
Len Cahoon here to offer you a wonderful opportunity to feel needed, spread UU values. I mean, the world needs UU values now, doesn't it? And have fun. We need folks to help with RE, religious education. This is a chance to get to know our bright, enthusiastic children and youth. We ask you to volunteer just once a month. Our safety guidelines require 2 people to be with our children at all times, so you won't be alone. If you're unable to give time regularly, we need substitutes to step in occasionally. If you have a particular skill or interest, a musical instrument, a hobby that you'd be willing to share in a cameo experience, we'd be happy to see you. Please let Heaven know if you would be willing to volunteer some time, or you could talk to Patrick Cullinane or Bob Moore or me, and we would be happy to let you know of this splendid opportunity.
Let's rise once more in body or spirit. We'll sing "When Our Heart Is in a Holy Place."
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell a story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our hearts stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace when our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place.
We reach out a hand or touch an elbow or a shoulder. Reach out to whatever's beyond and take a moment to check in with your bus. How are your passengers feeling now? Who's satisfied? Who's still a little cranky? Who wants to do something? Who's ready to do nothing for a while? Just let them all have their space. May all our parts know they are loved and welcome. May we all know the world needs all of us to be there. May it be so, and amen.